Welcome back to this processing tutorial. Again, the materials that we are following were produced by Professor Jeff Nyhoff of Calvin College and are being presented by me, Tim Stapert, teacher at Grand Rapids Christian High. If you're picking up right where we left off, you'll remember we had just gotten started with processing and we had created just a really basic sketch, really just of a line. We had figured out how to produce points and lines. And if we press play, what we saw here is we had created a canvas that was 400 pixels wide by 200 pixels tall. So 400 wide by 200 tall. We had changed our stroke weight, meaning our pencil size, if you will, to 5, so we made our lines a little bit thicker. And we had drawn a line that started at point 10, so 10 rows over and 100 down, and terminated at 300 rows or 300 columns over and 150 rows down, and we just drew a line between those 2 points. So we took code, we just wrote numbers in, and it produced this sketch for us. So we're going to start today, though, looking then at that command that we jumped over called smooth. Smoothing is a fairly interesting command, and I think the best way to do it is to actually just put it in and see what it does. It's kind of a unique command in that it doesn't take any arguments. It's just smooth, and then you put the parentheses there with nothing in between them. So when we do smooth, actually what I'm going to first do is I'm going to put 2 slashes in front of smooth, and what that does, it's a fairly handy tool, is it comments that command out. So right now when processing runs this sketch, it's going to do all of these things, but it's just going to skip over this. So I could write anything after that and not have an issue with it. So when I do that, I can hit play, and we'll see the sketch just as it was. It's kind of a nice tool if you want to, like we're doing right now, quickly see how something affects your sketch. You can comment it out, and then you can come back to it and delete it, and now you can rerun your sketch and see exactly what it does. But if we stick with this, what you see right now on your line is it's kind of jaggy, or jagged is maybe the term you're more familiar with, but jaggy is a term you'll hear fairly often in computer science. It looks like you've got a whole bunch of little steps. It's a little staircase going up. If we turn smoothing on and run our sketch, all of a sudden it looks really smooth. And what it's really doing is fairly simple, and I think the best way to understand it is to look at it up close. So on the left here is the line before we smoothed it. And you can see it looks like those steps. You go black pixel, black pixel, black pixel, white pixel. Black pixel, black pixel, black pixel, white pixel. There's a very stark contrast. All smoothing does is it kind of mixes the 2 colors. So it mixed the white and the black right here, and so we go black pixel, dark gray pixel, medium gray pixel, light gray pixel. And by doing that, it kind of blurs that edge a little bit, and when you look at it, it looks fairly nice and fairly smooth. So that's a command we often are just going to want to turn on at the beginning of any sketch and leave on. It'll make it look a little bit nicer. It just blends the 2 colors together, so it gives it that smooth look. Alright, so back at our sketch, the next thing we want to do, moving on to page 2, is talk about a rectangle. I'm actually going to make these instructions a little bigger so we can see them. A rectangle takes 4 arguments, just like the line did, and what it's looking for is an X and an Y, a point, an upper left hand point for the rectangle, and then a width of the rectangle and the height of the rectangle. So if we come back here, let's change from a line to a rectangle, and if we draw it from, let's start at the point 1010 and make it 300 wide and 150 tall. When we run that sketch, now we've drawn this rectangle. And notice it started at the point 1010 it was 300 wide and 150 tall. And I commented out the stroke weight because I wanted to now put it back in so you can see the difference. It just draws the lines thicker again. One nice thing within processing, you can imagine what would happen if I, instead of making this upper left-hand point at 1010, what if I put it at 150, so it was down here? Well, then my rectangle would be 300 wide here and 150 down here, and it would actually be off of my canvas. Well, the nice thing about processing is that it won't give you an error message. It'll just do it. And notice now my rectangle hangs off the end of my canvas. Just cut it off for me. But you do have to be a little bit careful, because imagine if I had put in the command 250, so it starts somewhere down here below the canvas itself. It's not going to give me an error message. Oops, let's try click there. It's not going to give me an error message. It's just going to draw the rectangle down in space where I can't see it. So you do have to be a little careful with that, although it is kind of a nice feature that it doesn't give you error messages for drawing things off the edge of the paper. So let's turn it back to that. The next thing that we really need to address, though, is it's kind of boring working with black and white. It'd be nice if we could change some colors. And of course, processing enables us to do that. To understand coloring on your computer, on your TV, on your digital camera, you have to understand how the computer deals with that. And the way it does is with red, green, and blue technology. So it assigns an RGB number, red, green, blue number. And the number, what it does is it describes the amount of red light, the amount of green light, and the amount of blue light that produces a certain color. And you can produce pretty much any color that you want with the combination of red light, green light, and blue light. And the scale, the amount of red light or the amount of green light that you're including, runs from 0 to 250. And so if you've got 0 to 255 amounts of red light, and 0 to 255 of green light, and 0 to 255 of blue light, that's actually 256 different possibilities for red, 256 for green, 256 for blue. If you multiply that together, you get 16,777,216 different possible combinations or different colors that you could have. So that's how those RGB numbers work. So if you wanted to produce red, for instance, you'd say I want all the red that you can give me, all the red light you can give me, with no green light mixed into it and no blue light mixed into it. If I wanted green, similar idea, 0 red, 255 green, 0 blue. And you get a couple colors here you can see on this wheel that match. If you have red and blue mixed together, you get a magenta, green and red give you a yellow. And depending on your different amounts, you get a bunch of different colors. If you have all the most possible red light, the most possible green light, and the most possible white light you get white. And if you have no red light, no green light, and no blue light coming through, you get black. So those are really all the different those are all the main types of colors that you can get. But if you want to get a variety of other colors, processing has built into it this color selector, which will help you figure out. So you can change your colors, you can find a color that you actually like, and it'll tell you exactly how much red, how much green, and how much blue you want. So if I want this blue, I would type in 44 red, 57 green, and 188 blue. Alright, so now let's put that into code. And in processing, you've got a few different codes that use those RGB numbers. The first one is background. Right now we're drawing on this gray background. Let's instead put it on a red background. So we'd want 255 red, 0 green, and 0 blue. So our background command, right after our size command, let's type in background 255, 0, 0. And now when we draw our sketch, we have a red background. Looks nice. Next command is a fill command. This is one you're going to use fairly often. If you're going to draw a shape, like we're drawing a rectangle here, if I want to... Oh, I've got that color selector still open. If I want to change the fill color from white to something else, its default is white, I can put the command right in front of it, fill, and let's make that, I don't know, blue, so 0, 0, 255. And so now when I run it, I've got a red background with a blue rectangle. And the last one to change command is this stroke, or change the color, sorry, is stroke. So right now our default, you can see our stroke, what we outlined our rectangle in, is black. So if we want to change that, maybe I want a, I don't know, I want a white outline. So I'm going to put in the command stroke 255, 255, 255. When I do that, now I've got a red background with a white stroke that covers that and a blue rectangle. And of course, if I wanted to change those to, again, go back to my color selector, maybe I wanted the blue to be this blue instead, I would go, I don't like that blue very much. Let's go with this blue. So I'm going to go with, bring this to where I can see it, my fill color, we'll do 17, 27, and what does it say there? 137. So now I'm using this color selector and I'm using those numbers it gave me, and notice my blue is exactly the color that I had just chosen. So that's how colors work inside the computer here. And at this point you're starting to see, man, we can do quite a lot just by typing in here, typing in some commands, and it produces a little sketch for us. But this is just the beginning, and hopefully you're finding it's not terribly difficult. But when you think of pictures, this is essentially what, even when you're taking photographs, this is essentially what your camera is doing. It's assigning a different color code to each one of those pixels and producing this picture for you. So we're going to stop here. I'm going to close what I've got here. I'm actually going to save my sketch. So when I save it, let's call this blue rectangle. I don't know. It's kind of boring. But when I save it, what it's actually going to do is it's going to choose, I gotta go back to my documents, find that folder that I put it in. It's actually going to create a folder that then has my code in it. So at this point, save what you've got. We'll pick it up again here tomorrow, and we'll start with page 3 and work our way through some slightly more complex things within processing. Thank you.